Hi, boys and girls. This is Sally Morse. I'm a district math coach with Henrico County Public Schools, and for today's lesson, we're focusing on the basic fact strategies for multiplication and division of using tens. The using tens strategy works for our times 10 and our times 5s facts. If we look at the multiplication chart over here, we can see this strategy is effective for multiplying and dividing by 10 and 5. We will use our tens facts and think about cutting them in half in order to find our fives facts. I'm going to show you a series of dot images over the next several pages, and I want for you to try and figure out how many dots there are and how you know. Ready? Let's begin. How many dots? How do you know? There are a total of 60 dots. There are 6 10 frames that are all the way filled in. 6 times 10 equals 60, or 10 times 6 equals 60. How many dots? How do you know? Now there are 30 dots. Originally we saw 60 and they were now cut in half. Half of 60 equals 30. I can think about this as 6 times 5. If I look at each row, there are 5 on the top of my 10 frame and 5 on the bottom of my 10 frame. And I have 6 rows of 5. 6 times 5 equals 30, or 5 times 6 equals 30. I think 6 times 10 equals 60, and then I cut 60 in half to get 30, which is the same as 6 times 5. Let's try another one. How many dots? How do you know? Here we see 80 dots. There are 8 filled out 10 frames. 8 times 10 equals 80, or 10 times 8 equals 80. Now how many dots? How do you know? Now we see 40 dots. Originally there were 8 filled out 10 frames. Now there are only 4 of them. 8 times 10 equals 80, and if I cut 80 in half, we get 40. If we look at each individual row of 5, there are 8 rows of 5 for a total of 40 dots. Now let's try some with cubes instead. How many cubes? How do you know? There are 5 groups of 10 cubes. 5 times 10 equals 50. What if I wanted to cut 50 in half? What could that look like? It could look like this. Half of 50 is 25. I see 2 full groups of 10, and then there is half of 10, which is 5. I can think of 5 times 5 as 25. 5 times 10 equals 50, and half of 50 is 25. What about if I look at it this way? How many dots? How do you know? We just discussed that 10 times 5 equals 50, but what if I wanted to cut it in half? It could also look like this. Half of 50 is 25. 5 groups of 5 equals 25. Here I have a picture of an array and a number line modeling the same fact, modeling both 7 times 10 and modeling 7 times 5. I want you to pause the video for a minute and think about the questions that I noted. How are these models the same, and how are they different? Go ahead and pause and come back once you've discussed that. We can think about extending this strategy to larger numbers too. What if I wanted to know what 5 times 24 was? I can think about 10 times 24. I know that 10 times 24 is 240, and half of 240 is 120. Therefore, 5 times 24 also equals 120. So I want to share with you guys a game that you can play at home to practice your times 5 and your times 10 facts. You're going to need a deck of cards, and you're going to want to remove the face cards. That means get rid of the jack, the queen, the king, and if you have jokers. The ace is also going to represent 1 here. So you want to include your aces all the way through your tens. You'll also need a piece of a piece of paper and a pencil. Remember to find your tens facts first. Then you're going to cut that product in half to find your fives facts. For instance, I might have drawn the card 3. I'm going to think 3 times 10, which equals 30. And then I'm going to write half the product. Half of 30 is 15. So then I'm going to mark the multiplication fact, 3 times 5. If you'd like, this can even be extended to larger numbers too. If you wanted to start getting 2 digits out, perhaps I wanted to pull the numbers, an ace and a 2, and make the number 12. I can think 12 times 10 is 120. So that's my first product. And then I'm going to think of 120, and I'm going to cut it in half. Half of 120 is 60. That is the same as 5 times 12. Have fun practicing your using tens facts to find your times 10 and your times 5 facts.